Hey guys, welcome to the Powerful Man Show, where we help married businessmen save their marriages without having to talk about it, get unstuck, and gain clarity in their lives. As I like to say, life is too short for average. I'm your host, Doug Holt, with my co host, Tim, the Powerful Man Matthews. Now let's get this started. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Powerful Man Show. Tim, good to have you back in the seat, brother.
Yeah, thanks, brother. It's nice to be here with you.
It is. It's nice to have you back. You got an amazing trip with your partner Amelia into Italy, and just awesome to see the communication and you practicing what we preach here. Also, great to have some different guests on to get some
Mm.
different voices heard over time. So that was really fun. But you were definitely missed.
Yeah, I heard the team crushed it.
They do, or they did, I should say. And they still do teamily. But one of the things I thought was interesting in relation to you going to Italy, right? Look, the Powerful Men movement, we run it like a business. It's a movement of men. We have a lot of men throughout the programs. I think off the top of my head, roughly about 1,000 that are active currently right now. I could be off on those numbers, so don't quote me on that. I'm just going off my memory as I'm getting older, guys. But we look at it, oftentimes as a business leader, and Tim leading the front of this is, it's easy to say, hey, we need to take time off. We need to travel. We need to spend time with loved ones. But there's always stuff going on. And because what we do is truly life changing, right? We change the lives of not only the men that we work with, but also their families, their kids. And that's something that's near and dear to our hearts. So it's easy to push trips, to next quarter, next year, we'll go to Italy or whatever else it may be. And it reminded me of something that occurred to me, I guess, while you were gone, Tim, is, uh, you know, I've been very open about my wife and I having problems early on in our marriage. And look, we have problems periodically throughout our marriage. Nothing's perfect. The idea of show me a perfect relationship and I'll show you two people who are lying, right? There isn't one. There's ones that are, great for both people, but perfect, I don't think so. So point is I was sitting there one time. We're at the TPM ranch, the new ranch that we got, and we're walking around, and the kids are running and jumping. So my kids, for those listening, my son is 6, my daughter's 3. So young kids, and they're having a great time just exploring. And my wife is spinning around with just this huge smile on her face, and she looks at me and just tells me how much she loves me. It was just absolutely an awesome, awesome moment. And instantly, what it reminded me of is a movie that came out, gosh, I want to say the 80s or so, called Sliding Doors with Gwyneth Paltrow. Did you ever see that, Tim?
No.
Okay. Well, the premise, and again, I'm going to get this probably wrong too. I haven't watched this, guys, in a long time. But the overarching premise is, it's about decisions. Like every decision we make is like a fork in the road. And as I was sitting there watching my wife smile and tell me how much she loves and appreciates me and all the stuff us men we love to hear, right? I remember when, the whole idea of laying next to your wife and her being 6 inches away, but feeling 6 miles apart, so many men can relate to. And the reason they can relate to it is I went through it. That was my life. And now I get to have this passionate, loving marriage, which I didn't think was possible. And so it was that idea of the fork in the road. And I was thinking to myself, like, wow, what would life be like if I didn't make that decision to invest in myself? If I didn't make that decision to go all in my marriage? If I didn't make that decision to go all in on me? And I remember that specific time I was down in San Diego, and I've talked about this on the podcast before. My wife and I were in the throes of it. We're in the darkest part of our marriage. And I left. I went away, and I was fortunate enough to have clients of mine who had a house on the beach in San Diego, Solana Beach specifically. Shout out to Yogi who lives there. And I was running on the beach, and I remember the water splashing against my face, the salt ocean. And I remember myself thinking there, have I gone all in? Am I the best version of Doug Holt that I could possibly be? I remember that answer coming back, no. I was like, crap. Is my stock as high as it could be? No. And as I was going through these questions, that's when I decided right then and there that I was going to go all in. First of all in on me, making myself a better man for myself, for my family, and hopefully to reconcile my marriage. And I also realized that if I didn't go all on me, my wife and I most likely would split up and get divorced. and I would be moving on to another relationship eventually. Obviously, there'd be some heartbreak and all of those things when you go away. I loved my wife still. We just couldn't seem to find each other for some reason. Something often that she'd say is like, why do two people love each other so much yet we just can't get along? I don't know would be my answer. So it was in that decision that I decided to go all in on me. I invested capital, so money, and invested time in me. And making that decision led me to that moment at the TPM ranch with a 6-year-old boy running and exploring the woods, having the best day of his life, a 3-year-old girl just going crazy in the woods as well. And my wife, in her 40s, smiling like, she had the greatest family in the world for her and thanking me and showing me that love, that respect, and that appreciation. But what if I didn't make that decision? What if I decided on that beach, Tim, I've had enough? It's her fault. She needs to change. I'm not changing. This is over. I'm going to go down to the bars or the club in San Diego, down to the Gaslamp District or wherever else it is. I'm going to pick up on a woman. I actually happen to know two trainers that were down in that area at the time. Thought did cross my mind. And going ahead and meeting them, and I'll go that route instead. What would have my life been like? Well, I can tell you what, it wouldn't be at the ranch. And it wouldn't be with this woman that I love smiling, looking back at me with this love and respect and admiration in her eyes that I hadn't seen in a while, right? Or I'd seen recently, but I didn't see it back then. And it reminded me of that outcome, how decisions in our life really change. So the movie Sliding Doors, Gwyneth Paltrow, there's two versions of her. One of her steps out of a subway while the other one is stepping in. And they have been to that those two versions of her had been to the same decision point in life, yet had made drastically the opposite decisions. So this would be akin to me at the beach saying, screw it, I'm not going to work on myself for my marriage, or I'm just going to suck it up and hope things get better, only to realize my life probably would have ended up in divorce. Or me that said, you know what? I'm going to take care of this side of the street, take care of Doug Holt. I'm going to become the best man I can possibly be, which if you've met me, it's still a journey, guys. But I'm going to be the best version of me possible. And what those two lives, how different those two lives would have been. And I also think about the men that come through this program. A guy recently in our Client Wins channel, who just turned his marriage completely around in a matter of weeks just because he made the decision to join the activation method. The activation method is our flagship program. The activation method for relationships helps you save your marriage without having to talk about it, right? And really, it's about getting that love, respect, and admiration back in your wife's eyes by leading the family. And also, your trip to Italy comes into mind, right? It would have been easy for you. There were a few things going on for you professionally and personally, but professionally, where things that you were running had a couple issues that would have been very easy for you to say, I'm gonna stabilize this for the movement, for the men that come through that are near and dear to your heart, Tim. And, Amelia, we'll go on that Italy vacation in the fall. Or we'll go on it next spring. Or whatever else the excuse would have been. And that would have been completely justified, right? You would have all the justifications in the world for making that decision, as I would have had for not working on myself in my marriage. Yet you chose a different door, a different sliding door, so to speak, that you walked through, which was, hey, I'm going to do the best I can to have everything done before my trip. But when I'm gone, I'm not going to be checking messages as much. I'm going to be out and I'm going to be spending time with Amelia. And you had an amazing bonding experience with your partner, Amelia, that'll probably never be forgotten. And it's these decisions that I bring up that I think about often. And I thought about while I was walking through that ranch. How many of these decisions come through our lives? How many guys are listening to this right now who either stuck in business, they're stuck in their personal life and unsure where to go, they're stuck in their marriage, yet they are paralyzed, as I've been, with taking massive action?
Great story. Really gets me thinking. I'm sure it does with a lot of the listeners too. Um, the thing that comes to mind for me when you're speaking about this, Doug, is the idea of reflection, right? It's why we give the men the coil to the chart of intentional living. and the ARS and everything that goes with that, because it's all about these moments to reflect, right, and take stock. And so many of the guys that we work with, when they come to us, they just don't have any of those practices, or very few of those practices in their life. And as a result, they're constantly on the path of force, run, 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 busy, right? The mind is constantly going. But it's only when you're able to take yourself out of the situation, like you did to Solana Beach, to have that space, really asking yourself some really great questions, being honest with yourself, reflecting, that you're able to come up with a really solid, authentic insight, really. It's those questions you're asking yourself and the insight that you get that then enables you to make the decision that creates the trajectory of your life. Whereas so many people, and I've been guilty of this in the past too, and I'm not perfect. Sometimes I fall into it from time to time. They react, right? You responded. So many people react. They react to what's going on in their environment. And the reaction would have been to go down to the is it the Gaslight District? I remember it from when I was in Sandy. I think, is it called the Gaslight District?
Here's the
Uh,
gas lamp
Gas
district.
lamp, that's it. Gaslight. I think guys would avoid that place, and women, if it was called Gaslight. Anyway, so yeah, look, that would have been a reaction, right? That would have been the easy reactive thing to do. Hey, fuck her, quite frankly. I'm going to go down there. And I think the other key thing as well is, and maybe there's no tie to this, but I think the fact you had space, you were asking yourself great questions. So this period of reflection, and again, those periods of reflection, it doesn't have to be you take yourself out for a week. The Alpha Rise and Shine. A stands for attune, L stands for learn, H honor your body. P plan your day, H honor your body, A accelerate. I don't know if I said that in the right order, but anyway, point being is through following your ARS, you get those moments of reflection. Through reviewing your week and having your coil score, you get those moments of reflection. You can have bigger moments of reflection as well, where you put yourself in the right space to respond and make the right decision. But the other thing I was going to say is, a big thing for you is working out as well, right? When you're working out, it helps to fuel that space that you're in, and is for me too, and a lot of the guys we work with. When you're working out, it helps you to be in a more grounded space, which again helps you to respond versus react. It's the whole idea of deer versus wolf, right? You have been very wise, open, loving, and fierce. And as a result, it enables you to take advantage of the sliding doors, to create the trajectory of your life that does result in you being able to sit at the ranch with Erin and the kids, taking it in, right? There's been many, I've known your journey over that past 7 or 8 years. It's been a hell of a one, right? There's been many sliding doors. And every time there's been these opportunities, you've responded in a really great way.
Yeah, thanks. And a couple things you're talking about here. You know, I didn't take myself away to go reflect, right? I took myself away because my marriage wasn't working. I used that time to reflect and work on myself, but I was also still growing
Mhm.
many businesses. At that time, I think I had 3 businesses, top of my head. Knowing me, I was probably working on starting the 4th or 5th. Um, but I was working on them remotely. And I would say these are more like what we call downloads, right? You know,
Mm,
people would call them, if you're Christian, you call it a message from God. Um, these were things that just came to me as I was running, right? And the voice seemed to come out of nowhere, like, "Hey, am I being the best version of me, I could possibly be?" No, it's like, whoa, like where'd that come from? Like, okay, that's fair. It's honest too. And I think what happens, Tim, and I think in that I was in deer mode before that, which was I was defending my actions, right?
mhm,
I was reacting to the situation with my wife. I was making excuses. I was explaining to anybody that would listen on what she needed to do in order for us to get back. Did she not realize how amazing I am? I own multiple companies, Santa Barbara, California. I was doing all these things. I was athletic. I was still playing competitive soccer at the time, my version of competitive. Let's just be clear on that. all these, if you had a list, a checklist of things that guys should be doing, I was doing them. And there were a few things I was faltering on. There's no doubt about that at all. However, it's my story. I was defending myself. So that checklist was definitely skewed, but hindsight's always 2020. And we talk about the decisions we make. Some of you guys listening to this right now are at an impasse, right? You are at a fork in the road in one of the 5 territories. So as a reminder for you guys, the 5 territories are self. How are you taking care of yourself? How are you filling your cup? Are you going on that guy's trip? Are you going, if you're in the brotherhood right now, and this guy's listening to this in the brotherhood, are you going yet to the next brotherhood trip or not? Because work's so hard and, oh, I got these things going on. I got those things going on. Dude, we all have stuff going on. Are you taking care of yourself? What about your health? What about your health? Are you actually going for it, or at least trying? Wealth, relationships. Are you stuck in your marriage? Are you at a crossroads where you're thinking, hey, we're at the verge of divorce, yet you're not doing anything about it? Or what about your business? Are you stuck with business growth is plateaued, or you're not sure what's going to happen, or the fourth turning, or whatever else it is, yet you're not taking massive action? And that's what I'm talking about, is we have these moments of decision every day, right? The one I'm talking about for me was a big one. And I could look back at it here this many years later, so many years later, and go, wow, I made the right decision, right? Like, this is amazing. This is the marriage I've always wanted. This is the lifestyle I've always wanted. And now I'm living it. And I'm living it because even though it was difficult, it would have been much easier to go sleep
Mm.
with those other women that I knew that were in San Diego at the time. Not to say I could have, because maybe they would have said no, but to pursue that would have been easy. It was hard to say, okay, even though I think my wife has a lot of imperfections and things she needs to change, I'm going to turn that light 100% on Doug, 100% on myself, and I'm going to work on me to be the absolute best, no argument, man, husband that I could possibly be. I'm going to strive for it so that, the time I picked, after 30 days, I'll be perfect. And if I'm not perfect for 30 days, I'll start over. Right. And then it'll be very clear that it's time to leave. And guess what happened? I turned my marriage around. Took a lot of work. The powerful man didn't exist back then. And since then, we've been able to do it successfully for tens of thousands of men just like you that have been through our programs or have listened to the podcast like you are, or have used one of our webinars or something that's allowed them to have the tool sets to turn their marriage around, turn their businesses around. Because when it starts with self, it starts with that decision as a man that I am going to take care of home base, me. I'm going to start here rather than blaming external factors, your wife, your business, the economy, politics, whatever else it is. It starts with you. And it starts with you making a decision. Now, if it's your marriage right now, we're running the Powerful Man, the activation method for relationships, right? It helps you save your marriage without having to talk about it. Get the love, respect, and admiration back in your wife's eyes. That's what it's designed to do. I'm running an alpha reset for guys that just did that. I have 9 men flying here to where I am from around the world to take on the next step of their journey. Why? Because they've been called to. They're owning their side of the street. They're becoming a wolf, not a deer. Wise, open, loving, and fierce. If you're watching this on Spotify or YouTube, it's the image right behind my shoulder. If you're listening to this, I'm pointing to a picture of a wolf right now. Right? That's what it's about, is that wisdom. Now, that I'll argue that wisdom didn't necessarily come from me. It came from some outside source that, thank God, shook me and said, hey, man, you're complaining about your wife and the circumstance you're in, but what about you? Anyway, it would have been really easy to not do it. Just like it would have been easy for you not to go to Italy. And what I'll ask you guys is, there's a decision right now, and every moment there's a series of decisions. Decision whether you're focusing on this podcast or you're multitasking. A decision whether you're going to jump on a call with an advisor at the Powerful Man, or you're just going to wait because it's not the right time. I'm not sure, whatever it is. These are the decisions that shape our destiny. They shape our life. Right? Those are the things. Kind of that idea that, If you've ever met somebody or just ran by them randomly and met them at a coffee shop or something, what if you were just 10 minutes late? You would never have met them. But yet you met this person and it just changed the whole trajectory of your life. That decision's in front of you guys right now. Now, I don't know what area it is. For most of the men listening, it's in the area of their marriage. Do I go all in or do I not? Do I take responsibility or do I blame my wife? Right, that's victim mode, by the way. Do I get on a call with an advisor or do I keep lone wolfing this and hoping something's going to work out for me? These are all decisions, choices. And when I'm met with these, Tim, the thing I think of is what would Doug 20 years from now or 10 years from now, what decision would he want? And 9 times out of 10, he'd want Doug to take the action. Take the scary action, the one that feels a little bit uncomfortable, because that's usually the right one. That's usually the one that gets me the results I actually want in life. It's like working out, man. My kids, whew, I got young kids, like I said, and I got through the baby monitor. We still have baby monitors for my 3-year-old, my 6-year-old, and I'm hearing, "Daddy, Daddy, I'm scared." I pull myself out of bed. I'm just like, "Oh shit, not again." And I go up to his room. My son's there. He's scared. He's a little guy, I could be a jerk. There's nothing to be scared of. Go to bed. No, he's a little dude that's actually scared, who's turning to his father for love and protection. So I climb into his bed, roll over. I'm not a cuddler. And I lay with him until he falls asleep. That's a decision. I'm tired. Next decision is, man, I could justify skipping my workout. I could justify just taking naps today. I could justify calling Tim and saying, "Hey, man, I was up all night with my kids again. I can't do this podcast. I can't do this show. I got to take a nap. I got to rest today. It's not good. I have high cortisol levels, not enough sleep. All the studies show that you need 8 hours of sleep. I got about 4. All excuses, guys. Or I can embrace it and make a decision to do it. And if I've touched one of you guys, if Tim's touched one of you guys or given you an insight during this podcast, then I'll tell you what, it's worth it to me. It's worth it to me. These are all decisions we make. And all the decisions are going to be hard, but you get to choose your hard. Which hard are you going to take? Are you going to take the hard of just hoping things get better in your relationship and in your marriage or your business for that matter? Or are you going to take massive action today? If you're already a member of our community, reach out, post in our private community what's going on for you. You have brothers who have your back. If you're not in our community yet and you're struggling in your relationship, we're starting a new group for the activation method for relationships coming up. It's only 9 men are allowed, right? We cap it. It's no joke. You can ask anybody that's been through our program. In fact, you can go over to thepowerfulman.com and you can look at the results page where men just like you posting what their experiences with the program. You could just get on a call right now, grab your phone, email VIP@thepowerfulman.com and set that up. It's easy, guys. We've made it so easy to remove the barriers for you, but you have to take the action. You have to crawl out of bed, in the middle of the night, so to speak, and get with your son, and then still get up in the morning and do the podcast, still go work out. And heck, take a nap too. Honor yourself. Tim?
You've been in flow, brother. There's nothing from me. You've nailed it.
I'm passionate about this, man. Like, we have so many great guys like the Bear, and I'm gonna use their nicknames, and just Yogi comes to mind, right? Like, we give the guys nicknames after the Alpha Reset. We don't want to use their real names on the podcast just for, sometimes we slip because we love these guys. But seeing these men and just hundreds of men and talking to them and the cards I get, personal letters that I get from men that have just thanking because it's changed their lives and changed their lives of their wives, right? They're seeing their wives with like energy again in their eyes and vibrancy. What man doesn't want that? To see the woman they love just excited and passionate like I did, like my wife spinning around and almost being in this feminine energy. It was so beautiful when, gosh, I can remember when she was so masculine and stuck. It was all because of the way I was showing up. At the time I didn't know that. At the time I wouldn't have accepted that if someone told me. But I see it so clear. I want the men listening to this to have that too. I want them to make the decision or have the opportunity to make the decision that will forever change their life, the life of their wives, the life of their kids, and their family history forever. But it starts with making a choice, and it starts with taking action. Again, Sliding Doors. I might watch that movie again. I don't know. I don't even remember if it was even good. I just remember the concept, right? The basic concept of what if there were two of you out there, right?
Hmm.
Quantum physics talks about this. There's two of
Hmm.
you out there. And at that moment of decision, that moment of insight, one of you decides to take massive action, like I always tell you to, and the other one doesn't. Think about that. What are the lives going to be like for those two people? I can almost guarantee the person who takes massive action, even if it's the wrong action, that person's life consistently, if they're doing that, is going to be incredible. And the person who's just working on hopium and waiting, and I've been there, their life is going to be one that's controlled by others. They'll be blaming people. They're going to be the old man at the end of the bar, having a cocktail, telling stories about high school football or something that nobody wants to listen to. The obligatory Christmas card. Be the opposite, guys. If any of this has a moment of insight for you, I encourage you to take massive action. If it's in the area of your relationship, we'd love to, and you're a businessman, I'd love to talk to you about if the activation method is the right fit for you. That's just getting on a call with one of our advisors, a short conversation to see if it's the right fit for you. For the rest of you, if it's in business or another area, take massive action and see what you can do. If you're in our community, you are well taken care of, but you've got to post something in there and men will be there for you. Gentlemen, again, in the moment of insight, take massive action. We'll see you next time on the Powerful Man Show. All right, guys, that's a wrap for this episode. But as I always say, in the moment of insight, take massive action. You see, there are two types of men that listen to a podcast like this. Those that go on from one podcast or show to another, just hoping things are going to change and realizing that they're going to be in the same place month after month, year after year. You see, I was this guy, so I completely get it. You may just not be ready. But there's also a second man that listens to a show just like this. And this is a guy who takes massive action so they can shorten the learning curve, compress time, and get results to be the wolf. See, wolf is an acronym for wise, open, loving, and fierce. Now, ask yourself, which one am I? And just be honest with yourself there. And there's no judgment on my end, but if you're ready to move from deactivated deer mode, which is defend, excuse, explain, react, to activated wolf, wise, open, loving, and fierce, then go over to thepowerfulman.com/grow and go there now. In fact, I'll make it super easy for you. I will even put the link right in the description here so you can just click it and go over there now to learn more. Guys, in the moment of insight, take massive action. Go from deactivated to activated because like I said, life is too short for average. And I'll see you on the next episode.